"I know how to make your daughter move again," said the cleaning lady to the millionaire. Richard Anderson was walking down the hallway of the most expensive private hospital in New York City when he heard those words, which made him stop abruptly. The woman who had just spoken was Betty Williams, the night shift cleaning lady. "Did you hear me?" insisted Betty, her eyes showing a determination Richard had never seen in a cleaning staff member. "I know how to make Emily move again." Richard turned slowly. His 12-year-old daughter Emily had been in that hospital bed for 6 months, completely immobile since the accident. The best neurologists in the country had already examined the girl. They all said the same thing: complete paralysis, no chance of improvement. And now this simple woman, whom he barely noticed when passing through the halls, claimed to have the solution. "Mom," Richard hesitated. He didn't even know her name. "Betty." "My name is Betty," she replied, stepping closer. "I've worked here for 15 years, Dr. Richard. I've seen your little girl every day since she arrived, and there's something the doctors aren't seeing. The best specialists in the United States have examined my daughter," Richard replied, trying to maintain his composure. "With all due respect, Mrs. Betty, but what could you know that they don't?" Betty looked around, making sure they were alone in the hallway. It was the middle of the night. The hospital was quiet, only the distant hum of medical machines breaking the silence. "Can I go into her room for just a minute?" Betty asked. "I promise I won't touch anything. I just want to show you something." Richard was about to refuse, but something in the woman's gaze made him hesitate. Maybe it was the desperation of a father who had already tried everything. Maybe it was the conviction in her voice. He nodded and opened the door to room 507. Emily lay in bed, her red hair spread across the white pillow. Tubes and wires connected her to various machines. Her eyes were closed, as always. Richard felt his heart tighten, as it did every time he saw his little girl in that state. Betty approached the bed slowly. She didn't touch the girl, just stood there observing. Then she began to speak softly. "Emily, sweetheart, it's Aunt Bet. I know you're in there fighting to come back." Her voice was gentle, maternal. "Your dad is here, wanting so badly for you to wake up." Richard was about to protest, to say the doctors had already explained that Emily couldn't hear. But Betty raised her hand, asking for silence. She continued, "Remember that song your mom used to sing, the one about the little bird?" And then something happened that made Richard lose his breath. Emily's heart monitor showed a slight change. Her heart rate sped up just for a few seconds, but it was enough for Richard to notice. "How do you know about that song?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing," Betty turned to him, her eyes glistening. "I knew Jennifer, Dr. Richard, your ex-wife, before she left." Richard's legs nearly gave way. Jennifer had passed away 2 years ago, leaving him and Emily behind. The divorce had been difficult, especially for the girl who adored her mother. No one at the hospital knew these intimate details of his life. "You knew Jennifer? How, where?" "It's a long story," Betty sighed. "But if you'll give me a chance, just 1 hour a day with the girl, I can try to help. No charge, no interference with her medical treatment, just her and me talking." "That's absurd," Richard shook his head. "The doctors say she can't. Here she can't feel—" "The doctors are wrong," Betty interrupted firmly. "With all due respect to medicine, Dr. Richard, but there are things science still can't explain. A mother's love, for example, or the strength of a child wanting to come home." Richard looked at Emily, then at Betty. The cleaning lady had hands calloused from hard work, her blue uniform worn out, but there was something in her eyes that conveyed a deep wisdom. "Why do you want to help?" he asked. "We barely know each other." "Because I made a promise," Betty replied simply, "and because no child deserves to be trapped inside their own body." Richard ran a hand through his hair, tormented by indecision. On one hand, trusting a cleaning lady seemed crazy. On the other, what did he have to lose? The doctors had already given up on Emily. 1 hour a day, he finally agreed, but with supervision, and if there's any trouble— "There won't be any trouble," Betty assured him. "You'll see, Doctor. Richard, your little girl will come back." In the following days, Betty began her visits. Richard installed cameras in the room to monitor everything. What he saw puzzled him. Betty simply sat by the bed, held Emily's hand and talked. Sometimes she sang softly, other times she told stories. She always mentioned Jennifer, which left Richard both uncomfortable and curious. On the third day, something extraordinary happened. Richard was reviewing the recordings when he saw it. Emily's index finger moved. It was just a tremor, barely noticeable, but it was there, captured by the camera. He rushed to the hospital, arriving in the middle of Betty's session. The cleaning lady held Emily's hand, murmuring something about flowers and gardens. "She moved her finger," Richard exclaimed, entering the room. "I saw it on the cameras." Betty smiled, showing no surprise. "I know, she's trying to respond. Yesterday there were 2 movements, today there were 3. Why didn't you tell me?" Richard approached the bed, emotional. "Because you wouldn't have believed me. You needed to see it with your own eyes," Betty explained. "And because I didn't want to give false hope. We still have a long way to go." Richard took Emily's free hand, squeezing it gently. "Sweetheart, Daddy's here. Keep fighting, my love." The head nurse, Sarah Johnson, appeared at the door with a stern expression. "Mr. Anderson, I need to speak with you. In private." Reluctantly, Richard left the room, following Sarah to a private area. "With all due respect, Mr. Anderson, this has to stop," Sarah began. "A cleaning lady has no medical qualifications to treat your daughter. This could be considered practicing medicine without a license." "She's not treating her," Richard argued. "She's just talking to Emily and it's working. She moved her finger." "Involuntary movements are common in patients in this condition," Sarah countered. "You're deceiving yourself. Worse, you're giving false hope to that poor woman." "False hope?" Richard snapped. "In 6 months, this is the first time I've seen my daughter react to anything." "Mr. Anderson, I understand your desperation, but—" "No, Mrs. Johnson, you don't understand," Richard interrupted. "If you had a daughter in that bed, you'd do anything to bring her back. Anything." Sarah adjusted her glasses, visibly unsettled. "I'll report this to the hospital director. It's for everyone's good, including your daughter's." Richard left the room furious. When he returned to Emily's room, he found Betty gathering her things. "I heard the conversation," she said calmly. "I don't want to cause trouble for you." "You're not going anywhere," Richard said firmly. "If they try to stop you from seeing Emily, I'll sue the hospital." Betty paused, surprised by his intensity. "You don't even know who I am, Dr. Richard. Why are you trusting me?" Richard looked at Emily, then at Betty. "Because in 6 months you're the first person who's given me hope. And because—" he hesitated. "Because you knew Jennifer. I need to know how, when, why." Betty sank heavily into a chair. "I think it's time to tell the truth, but you may not like what you're about to hear." "I can handle it," Richard assured her, sitting down as well. Betty took a deep breath before beginning. 3 years ago, I worked at a rehabilitation clinic in Westchester. It was a small place specializing in alternative therapies. Jennifer was one of our patients." Richard's eyes widened. Jennifer had never mentioned any clinic. "A patient? But she didn't have any health problems." "Yes, she did, Dr. Richard. Severe depression. She'd been battling it for years, even before Emily was born. The pregnancy made everything worse. Postpartum depression that never fully went away." Richard felt the world spin. How had he not noticed? How had Jennifer hidden this from him? "She came to the clinic 3 times a week," Betty continued. "Had therapy, attended support groups. That's where we met. I wasn't a cleaning lady back then. I was an occupational therapy assistant." "You were what?" Richard couldn't process so much information at once. "I had a technical degree. I assisted the lead therapists. Jennifer and I formed a special bond. She'd tell me about you, about Emily, showed me photos, videos, talked about how much she loved you both, but how inadequate, how insufficient she felt." Richard felt tears burning his eyes. So many puzzle pieces were falling into place. Jennifer's mood swings, the days she'd lock herself in the bedroom, the constant apologies. "Why didn't she ever tell me?" he asked, his voice thick. "Shame, fear, guilt," Betty explained. "She thought you'd see her as weak, as a bad mother. Depression does that to you, Dr. Richard. Makes you believe lies about yourself. And the clinic, what happened? Betty looked down. It closed, financial trouble. That's when I came to work here as a cleaning lady. It was the job I could get. Jennifer continued treatment elsewhere, but we never spoke again. Until... Richard pressed. Until one day 2 years ago she showed up here at the hospital, having a severe episode. I found her in the first-floor bathroom, crying desperately. That's when she made me promise something. Richard leaned forward, his heart racing. She made me promise that if anything ever happened to Emily, I'd take care of her. Said she had a bad feeling something would happen. I tried to calm her, said it was the depression talking, but she insisted. Promise me, Bet. Promise you'll take care of my girl if I can't. My God, Richard covered his face with his hands. 2 weeks later, she was gone. I know, Betty confirmed. I saw it in the papers. I tried to find you then. Wanted to tell you about the promise, but how? Would you have believed a cleaning lady? So I waited. Every day I'd pass by Emily's room, check if she was okay. Until the accident happened. Richard stood abruptly, pacing. The accident, so she was coming home from school. The driver said she was distracted, crossed without looking. The car couldn't stop in time. I heard that same day, Betty said. And since then I've been watching, observing. I've noticed things the doctors haven't, Dr. Richard. Small reactions when I mention Jennifer. Changes in her heartbeat when I talk about things she loved. That's why you mentioned the bird song, Richard realized. Jennifer sang it every night to help Emily sleep. Exactly. And there's more, much more, but I need time with her. I need to keep my promise. Richard stopped in front of Betty, studying her face marked by labor and time. He saw sincerity there and pain too. What do you think you can do that the doctors haven't? Reach her soul, Dr. Richard. The doctors treat the body, but Emily is trapped somewhere inside herself. Maybe from trauma, maybe from fear, maybe because she's searching for her mum. I can be the bridge between her and the world. How can you be so sure? Betty stood up, moving closer to Emily's bed. She gently took the girl's hand. Because I also lost a daughter, Dr. Richard, 20 years ago. She was Emily's age when it happened. It wasn't paralysis, it was leukemia. I spent months by her side in the hospital, talking, singing, telling stories, even when the doctors said she couldn't hear me anymore. On the last day, she opened her eyes and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me, Mum." Those were her last words. Richard felt a lump in his throat. Now he understood Betty's determination, the certainty in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," he murmured. "Don't be," Betty replied. "Use it to our advantage. Let me help Emily. Let me keep the promise I made to Jennifer and honor my Rebecca's memory." Before Richard could respond, the door swung open abruptly. Sarah entered, accompanied by the hospital director, Dr. William Thompson, and 2 security guards. "Mr. Anderson," Dr. Thompson began formally, "we've been informed of an irregular situation involving your daughter. I must ask Mrs. Betty to leave immediately." "This is ridiculous," Richard protested. "She's helping my daughter." "She's creating a risk," Dr. Thompson countered. "We can't allow unqualified staff to have therapeutic contact with patients. It's a legal liability." Betty gently released Emily's hand. "It's all right, Dr. Richard, I understand." "No," Richard stepped between Betty and the door. "She stays. She's my daughter. I decide who can visit her." "Mr. Anderson, be reasonable," Dr. Thompson insisted. "We can arrange the best psychologists, certified occupational therapists. In 6 months, not one of them got my daughter to move a finger," Richard exploded. "This woman did it in 3 days." "Coincidence," Sarah interjected. "Reflex movements." Enough," Richard shouted. "Enough of medical explanations, excuses, hopelessness. My daughter is responding to her." At that moment, everyone in the room froze. A faint sound, almost inaudible, came from the bed. It was Emily. She was softly moaning as if trying to speak. Betty was the first to react, rushing to the girl's side. "It's okay, my angel. Aunt Bet is here. Easy now, don't push yourself." The doctors approached in disbelief. Dr. Thompson checked the monitors, Emily's pupils, her reflexes. This is impossible," he murmured. She's showing signs of awareness. Impossible is the favorite word of those who lack faith, Betty said softly, stroking Emily's hair. Come on, my angel, your father's here. Show him you're fighting. Emily moaned again, and this time her right eye twitched slightly as if trying to open. My God, Sarah whispered. Call the neurology team, now. The room erupted into controlled chaos. Doctors rushed in and out. Tests were ordered, equipment was brought in. Amid the commotion, Betty remained calm beside Emily, whispering words of encouragement. Richard watched it all, stunned. After months of despair, there was finally hope. And all thanks to a cleaning lady, who kept a promise to a desperate mother. Hours later, when the frenzy subsided, Dr. Thompson pulled Richard aside for a private conversation. Mr. Anderson, I owe you an apology. The tests show brain activity we hadn't detected before. Your daughter is indeed responding to Mrs. Betty's stimuli. Then can she continue? Richard asked anxiously. Dr. Thompson hesitated. It's an unprecedented situation, a cleaning lady performing what appears to be a successful form of therapy, but I can't deny the results. What do you propose? An agreement. Mrs. Betty can continue the sessions, but under medical supervision. And we'd like to document everything. It could be a groundbreaking case for medicine. Richard agreed immediately. Anything that helped Emily was welcome. In the following days, Betty's sessions became the most anticipated event at the hospital. Doctors, nurses, even other patients came to observe, but Betty wasn't intimidated. She continued her patient work, talking to Emily, singing, telling stories about Jennifer. It was during one of these sessions that Betty brought something new, a faded pink blanket. What's that? Richard asked. Jennifer gave this to me at the clinic, Betty explained. It was Emily's favorite blanket as a baby. Jennifer always carried it in her bag, said the smell calmed her. She gently placed the blanket over Emily. The effect was immediate. The girl sighed deeply, and for the first time in 6 months, the hint of a smile appeared on her lips. She remembers, Richard said, moved. My God, she remembers. The body forgets, but the soul never does, Betty replied. Now we'll work with more emotional memories. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. In the weeks that followed, Betty brought more objects. A CD with songs Jennifer used to sing, a bottle of her perfume, photos of the family and happy moments. Each item sparked a reaction in Emily. Her eyes began staying open longer, her fingers moved more frequently, but not everything was smooth sailing. Emily's paternal grandmother, Mrs. Elizabeth Anderson, stormed into the hospital when she heard what was happening. Richard, have you lost your mind? She shouted in the hallway. Letting a cleaning lady treat my granddaughter. What kind of nonsense is this? Mum, she's helping, Richard tried to explain. Emily is improving. Improving? Mrs. Elizabeth laughed bitterly. You're being fooled. That woman probably wants money, fame, who knows? She doesn't want any of that. Everyone wants something, Richard. Wake up. Ever since Jennifer left, you haven't been thinking straight. In fact, this is all her fault. If she hadn't abandoned you— Enough, Mom, Richard interrupted. Jennifer was sick. Depression is an illness. Depression is an excuse for weak people, Mrs. Elizabeth shot back. In my day, we didn't have these silly notions, and now you're trusting my granddaughter with a stranger. I'll take action. What action? Richard grew alarmed. I'll file for custody of Emily. You're clearly unfit to make decisions about her treatment. Richard turned pale. You wouldn't dare. I've already spoken to my lawyers. If you continue with this madness, you leave me no choice. Mrs. Elizabeth stomped away, leaving Richard shaken. He rushed back to Emily's room where he found Betty trying a new exercise. She'd placed headphones on the girl and was playing a recording. What's that? He asked. It's Jennifer, Betty said softly. She recorded messages for Emily at the clinic, messages of love, of hope. I thought it might help. Richard moved closer and listened. Jennifer's voice, sweet and sad, filled the headphones. My little Emily, Mommy loves you more than anything in this world. I know sometimes it seems like I'm not here, like I'm far away even when I'm close, but it's the illness, my love, not me. The real mommy is here, fighting to get better, to be the mother you deserve. Richard had to leave the room. It was too much for him. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall and cried as he hadn't cried in years. He wept for Jennifer, for Emily, for everything he had lost, and for the fear of losing even more. Betty found him there minutes later. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to cause more pain." "No," Richard wiped his eyes. "I'm the one who should thank you. I never truly understood what Jennifer was going through. I was a terrible husband." "Don't say that. You did the best you could with the knowledge you had." "Depression is a silent enemy, Dr. Richard. It deceives everyone, especially those closest to it." "My mother wants to take Emily from me," Richard confessed. "She thinks I'm crazy for trusting you." Betty sighed. "Maybe it's better if I stop. I don't want to cause problems between you." "No!" Richard was firm. "You're Emily's only hope. I won't give up. Not even if I have to face my mother, the hospital, the whole world." The following days were tense. Mrs. Elizabeth indeed filed for temporary custody, claiming Richard was putting his granddaughter at risk by allowing unconventional treatment. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Meanwhile, Betty intensified the sessions. She brought in a retired therapist, Dr. Margaret Wilson, who had been her mentor at the clinic in Westchester. "Betty told me about the case, Doctor," Margaret said to Richard. "What she's doing has a scientific basis. It's called multisensory stimulation with effective anchoring. It's a little-known technique, but with documented results." "Could you testify to that in court?" Richard asked hopefully. "Of course, but it would be better if we had more concrete results by then." As if Emily had heard at that exact moment, she opened her eyes completely for the first time. She looked straight at Betty and moved her lips. No sound came out, but the shape was clear. My, she's calling me Mommy," Betty said, tears streaming down her face. "No," Richard stepped closer. "She's asking for her mother. Emily, sweetheart, Daddy's here." Emily slowly moved her eyes toward Richard's voice. Recognition was visible in her gaze. She tried to smile, but only managed a slight tremble of her lips. "Call the doctors," Dr. Margaret ordered. "Quickly." The medical team was stunned. In weeks, Emily had progressed more than they thought possible. Dr. Thompson had to admit, "Whatever Mrs. Betty is doing, it's working. I've never seen anything like it in 30 years of medicine." The news spread through the hospital. Soon reporters began showing up, wanting to cover the miracle. Richard refused all interviews, but someone leaked the story. Within days, Emily's case was in every newspaper. "Cleaning lady performs miracle in elite hospital." The publicity had an unexpected effect. Dozens of letters started arriving from desperate parents begging for Betty's help, but it also brought trouble. The medical board questioned the unorthodox methods. The hospital began feeling pressure, and Mrs. Elizabeth used it all as ammunition. "Look at this," she shouted at Richard during another argument. "You've turned my granddaughter into a circus act. This is exploitation." "It's hope, Mom," Richard fired back. "Something you seem incapable of understanding." The custody hearing approached and the tension was palpable. Betty offered again to step away, but Richard, and even the now converted medical team, refused. Then Emily did something that changed everything. During a particularly emotional session, where Betty was telling her how Jennifer had chosen the name Emily because of a Beatles song her father loved, the girl slowly raised her right hand. With tremendous effort, she made 3 distinct movements. She clenched her fist, opened it, then clenched it again. "What is she doing?" Richard asked. Betty began to cry uncontrollably. "It's a code. Jennifer taught me. 3 squeezes mean, 'I love you.' She's telling you she loves you, Dr. Richard." Richard knelt beside the bed, taking his daughter's trembling hand. "I love you too, my princess, more than anything in the world." Emily repeated the gesture, this time looking at Betty. The cleaning lady sobbed, squeezing the girl's other hand. "I love you too, my angel. Your mother would be so proud." The scene was witnessed by several members of the medical team. One of them, neurologist Dr. Charles Miller, was recording everything for medical documentation. That video would prove crucial. On the day of the hearing, the courtroom was packed. The story had gone public, and many wanted to see the outcome. Mrs. Elizabeth came prepared, with 3 lawyers and a dossier questioning Richard's mental health. "Your Honor," her lawyer began, "my client is deeply concerned about her granddaughter's well-being. Mr. Richard Anderson, in his understandable desperation, is allowing an unqualified cleaning lady to perform experimental procedures on a vulnerable child." "Objection," Richard's lawyer interrupted. "These are not experimental procedures. They are recognized therapeutic techniques applied by someone with proven experience." The judge, Judge Michael Brooks, called for order. "Let's hear the witnesses." Dr. Thompson was the first to testify. To everyone's surprise, he vehemently defended Betty's work. "Initially, I was skeptical, I admit, but the results speak for themselves. Patient Emily Anderson has shown significant improvement under Mrs. Betty Williams' care, improvement our medical team couldn't achieve in 6 months." "But she's a cleaning lady," Mrs. Elizabeth's lawyer protested. "She's an occupational therapy assistant with experience," Dr. Thompson corrected. "And more importantly, she has a connection with the patient that goes beyond academic titles." Dr. Margaret Wilson was next, explaining in detail the techniques used and their scientific basis. But the most emotional moment came when Betty was called to testify. "Mrs. Williams," the judge began, "can you explain to the court your relationship with the Anderson family?" Betty, visibly nervous but determined, told the whole story. About Jennifer, the depression, the promise. She left nothing out, not even the loss of her own daughter. "I understand it may seem crazy to many," she concluded. "A cleaning lady wanting to help a millionaire's daughter. But this isn't about social class, Your Honor. It's about love, about a promise made to a desperate mother, and about a child who deserves every chance to live again." Mrs. Elizabeth scoffed audibly, but the judge silenced her with a look. "Do you have anything else to add, Mrs. Williams?" Betty hesitated, then pulled an envelope from her pocket. "I have a letter. From Jennifer. She gave it to me the day she made the promise, asked me to keep it in case I ever needed to prove our friendship." The judge asked to see the letter. As he read it, his eyes filled with tears. He passed it to the lawyers. The letter said, "Dear Bet, if you're reading this, it means something happened and you needed to prove our friendship. I can't explain what I feel, this terrible certainty that I'll fail my family. The depression consumes me day after day, and I'm afraid I won't be strong enough. You're the only one who truly understands me, the only one who doesn't judge me. That's why I must ask, if something happens to me, if I can't be there, take care of my Emily. She's my life, my light. Richard is a good father, but he doesn't understand certain things. You do, I know it's a lot to ask. But you, better than anyone, know a mother's love. I know you lost your Rebecca, and I know you carry that pain every day. Maybe taking care of Emily can help heal that wound a little. Or maybe I'm being selfish. I don't know anymore. All I know is that I trust you, completely, with love and eternal gratitude, Jennifer." The courtroom was utterly silent. Even Mrs. Elizabeth seemed shaken. Richard stood up. "Your Honor, may I speak?" The judge nodded. "My mom is right about one thing. I was desperate. I still am. Seeing my daughter in that bed day after day, unable to do anything. It's a hell I wouldn't wish on anyone, but Betty gave me something I'd lost. Hope. And more than that, she gave me understanding. About Jennifer. About what she went through. About how much she loved our daughter even in the midst of her own struggle." He turned to his mother. "You never accepted Jennifer. You always thought she wasn't good enough, and now you want to do the same with Betty. But you know what, Mom? Both of them have something you seem to have lost. Compassion. The ability to love without judgment, to help without expecting anything in return." "Richard," Mrs. Elizabeth began, but he continued. "My daughter is coming back to life thanks to a cleaning lady who kept a promise. If that isn't love, if that isn't what matters, then I don't know what is." Richard's lawyer seized the moment to show the video of Emily signing, "I love you." The reaction in the courtroom was immediate. Several people were moved. "Your Honor," the lawyer said, "this video was recorded 3 days ago. The improvement in minor Emily under Mrs. Betty's care is undeniable. Removing her now would not only be cruel, but potentially harmful to the child's recovery. The judge called for a recess to deliberate. When he returned, his decision was clear. After reviewing all the evidence presented, this court rules to maintain custody of minor Emily Anderson with her father, Richard Anderson. The continuation of complementary treatment by Mrs. Betty Williams is also authorized under medical supervision. He looked directly at Mrs. Elizabeth. Mrs. Anderson, I understand your concerns. A devoted grandmother is a blessing, but sometimes excessive devotion can become harmful. I suggest you reflect on what is truly best for your granddaughter. Outside the courtroom, Richard embraced Betty. Thank you for everything, for not giving up on Emily, for helping me understand. Jennifer, for... No need to thank me, Betty interrupted. I'm just keeping a promise and honoring the memory of two special girls. Betty, I have a proposal, Richard said. I want you to officially be part of Emily's care team, with a proper salary, benefits, everything in order. Dr. Richard, I don't do this for money. I know, but you deserve to be recognized for your work, and Emily will need you for a long time yet. Betty agreed, moved. When they returned to the hospital, they were met with a surprise. Emily was sitting up in bed. She still needed support, still couldn't speak, but she was sitting, smiling. My God, Richard rushed to her. My princess. Emily raised her arms shakily, asking for a hug. Richard held her carefully, crying with joy. Betty watched from the doorway, also in tears. Come, Emily whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. It was her first word in 6 months. Come, Bet. Betty approached, and Emily pulled her into the hug. 3 wounded souls embraced, united by pain, hope, and love. In the following months, Emily's recovery continued to amaze. She began speaking again, first single words, then full sentences. Physical therapy helped her regain movement. Betty was always there, complementing the medical care with her special touch. One day, Emily asked a question everyone feared. Where's Mommy? Richard exchanged glances with Betty. They had discussed this moment with the psychologist. Mom had to go on a trip, sweetheart. Richard began carefully. She was sick and needed to take care of herself. Is she coming back? Emily insisted. We don't know, my love, Betty answered gently. But she left so much love behind. In your heart, in Daddy's heart, in all the beautiful memories. And in the recordings, Emily said, surprising everyone. I heard her voice when I was sleeping. She said she loved me. You remember that? Richard asked, astonished. I remember everything, Emily confirmed. Your voice, Bet. The stories, the songs. That's what brought me back, knowing I wasn't alone. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Emily and Betty's story spread. The hospital created a protocol based on the techniques used. Betty was invited to speak at medical conferences, always accompanied by Dr. Margaret. But she never lost her humility. I didn't do anything extraordinary, she would say. I just loved a child who needed to be loved. Richard, transformed by the experience, founded a charity in Jennifer's name to help families dealing with depression. Betty became the program's coordinator. Mrs. Elizabeth, after much resistance, finally gave in to the evidence. One afternoon, she showed up at the hospital with an apology. I was wrong, she admitted to Betty. About you, about Jennifer, about everything. Prejudice blinded me. You saved my granddaughter and I couldn't see past your job. You love your granddaughter, Betty replied with compassion. You were just trying to protect her in your own way. A wrong way, Mrs. Elizabeth acknowledged. Can I hug her? The embrace between the two women sealed an unlikely peace. Mrs. Elizabeth became a constant presence in Emily's recovery, learning to value what truly mattered. A year after the accident, Emily was practically healed. She still had physical therapy, still faced some challenges, but she was once again the joyful, lively girl she'd always been. On her 13th birthday, she made a special request. I want Bet to be my second mom, officially. Richard looked at Betty, surprised. They had grown very close that year, united by their love for Emily, but they had never spoken about feelings beyond friendship. Emily, it doesn't work like that, Richard began. I know she can't replace Mom, Emily interrupted, No one can, but she can be another mum, from the heart. She already is, really. I just want it to be official." Betty was in tears. "My angel, I already love you like a daughter. You don't need paperwork for that." "But I want it," Emily insisted. "I want to be able to call you Mom without feeling like I'm betraying Mom. The psychologist said I can have two mums in my heart." Richard knelt beside his daughter. "Is this really what you want?" "Yes. And I think Mom would have wanted it too. She chose Bet to take care of me, didn't she?" It was impossible to argue with that logic. Richard looked at Betty. "What do you think?" "I think it would be the greatest honor of my life," Betty replied, her voice breaking. The process of emotional adoption began. It wasn't a traditional adoption, since Richard retained full custody, but a legal recognition of the maternal bond between Betty and Emily. During this time, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, Richard and Betty were in the Foundation's office when they got a call from the hospital. A woman had been admitted in critical condition and asked to speak with them. It was Jennifer. Richard nearly fainted when he saw her. She was terribly thin, worn out, but those unmistakable green eyes were the same. "Jennifer," he whispered. "Richard," she replied weakly. "Betty, you came. What happened?" "Where were you?" Richard asked, torn between relief and anger. "Trying to heal," Jennifer replied. "I went to a clinic in the countryside, then another and another. I fought depression every day. Sometimes I thought I had won, but it always came back." "Why didn't you let us know?" Richard asked. "Emily needed you." "I know," Jennifer began to cry. "I followed everything. The newspapers, the internet. I saw what happened to our girl. I saw how Betty kept her promise. I wanted to come back, I swear I did. But I was afraid of making things worse." "Jennifer, what's wrong with you?" Betty asked gently, noticing the medical equipment. "Liver failure," Jennifer answered. "A side effect of so many medications, so many treatments. The doctors say I need a transplant." Richard felt the world collapse again. After everything they'd been through, now this. "Emily doesn't know you're here," he said. "And she shouldn't," Jennifer was firm. "Not until I get better, if I get better. I don't want her to see me like this. I don't want her last memory of me to be of a dying mother." "Jennifer, don't talk like that." Betty held her hand. "You'll fight for Emily." "I have fought, Bet. All these years I've fought, but sometimes you just get tired." "Then rest," Betty said firmly. "But don't give up. Your girl is beautiful, strong, brave. She takes after you. Do you want to hear the story of how she came back to life?" Jennifer nodded, and Betty began to tell her. Every detail, every small victory. Jennifer cried and smiled in turns. "The 3 squeezes code," she said emotionally. She remembered. She remembered everything, Betty confirmed. "Your love, your songs, your scent. That's what brought her back." You two became mother and daughter," Jennifer observed, "just as I knew you would." "Jennifer," Richard began, but she interrupted him. "No, Richard, don't feel guilty. I'm happy. Truly happy. My girl has 2 wonderful people taking care of her. Betty, are you going to adopt her?" "She asked me to," Betty confirmed. "But Jennifer, that doesn't mean—" "It does," Jennifer interrupted. "It means I made the right choice in life. I chose the right person to care for my greatest treasure." The 3 talked for hours until Jennifer fell asleep, exhausted. Outside the room, Richard and Betty looked at each other. "What do we do now?" Richard asked. "We save her," Betty answered with determination. "Like we saved Emily, with love, faith, and a lot of fighting." "And Emily, do we tell her?" Betty thought carefully. "Not yet. Jennifer is right. Let's wait until she improves a little, but we'll prepare Emily bit by bit." The battle was now double. While they continued to support Emily's recovery, Richard and Betty took turns caring for Jennifer. Quietly, they began the campaign to find a compatible donor. It was Mrs. Elizabeth who had the idea that changed everything. "Why don't we test the whole family?" she suggested during dinner. "Cousins, uncles, everyone, someone might be a match." "Mom, Jennifer isn't family anymore," Richard gently reminded her. "She's the mother of my granddaughter," Mrs. Elizabeth countered. That makes her family forever. And Betty, your family now too. Family isn't just blood, Richard. You taught me that. The mobilization was impressive. Dozens of relatives got tested. The foundation organized a public campaign, but the result came from where no one expected. I'm a match, Betty announced, holding the test results. What? Richard couldn't believe it. But the chances were so slim. Seems fate has other plans, Betty smiled. Or maybe Jennifer and I are more like sisters than we thought. Betty, it's a serious surgery, Richard warned. There are risks. Loving someone always comes with risks, she replied. You risked everything when you trusted a cleaning lady. Let me return the favor. The news had to be shared with Jennifer. Her reaction was immediate. No, I can't accept this. You've already done too much. Jennifer, listen. Betty held her hands. You gave me a gift years ago. You gave me Emily to love when I thought I'd never love a child again. You gave me purpose when I was just a broken woman cleaning hospitals. Let me return the favor. But what if something goes wrong? Jennifer cried. Emily can't lose you too. Nothing will go wrong, Betty said firmly. I have faith in this. The same faith that made me believe Emily would come back. The same faith you had when you chose me. Richard watched the conversation, moved. Two women fate had improbably brought together, bound by love for the same child. Jennifer, he said, let Betty do this. For Emily. She deserves to have. Both mothers close by. Jennifer finally agreed. The surgery was scheduled. Now it was time to tell Emily. Betty led the conversation with the gentleness that was so characteristic of her. My angel, remember how you always ask about Mommy? Emily nodded, apprehensive. We have something to tell you. Mommy is in the United States. She's back. Emily's eyes widened. Where can I see her? Not yet, sweetheart, Richard interjected. Mommy is sick. She's in the hospital getting treatment. Sick how? Emily asked, fear evident in her voice. Will she be paralyzed like I was? No, my love, Betty explained. It's a different illness, in her liver. But we're going to help her get better. Like you helped me? Emily asked hopefully. Exactly, Betty smiled. And you'll have an important role in this. They explained the transplant, Betty's compatibility, the necessary care. Emily processed it all with surprising maturity for her age. You're going to save Mommy, she said to Betty, like you saved me. We're going to save her, Betty corrected. All of us, with love, faith, and care. Can I write her a letter? Emily asked, for her to read before the surgery. Of course you can, Richard agreed. Emily spent hours writing. When she finished, she asked Richard and Betty to read it. Dear Mommy, I know you're sick and scared. I was 2 when I couldn't move. But you know what brought me back? Love. Daddy's love, Aunt Bet's love, Grandma's love, everyone's love, and most of all your love, Mommy. I heard your voice every day. You told me you loved me and that gave me strength. Now it's my turn to give you strength. I love you, Mommy. Daddy loves you. Aunt Bet loves you so much she's sharing her liver with you. That's real love. Don't be afraid. Aunt Bet took care of me when you couldn't. Now she'll take care of you too. And when you're both better, we'll be a different kind of family, but still a family. Because family is who we love, right? Be strong, Mommy. Come back to us. With endless love, your Emily. There wasn't a dry eye after reading it. Richard hugged his daughter, amazed by her wisdom and generosity. You're incredible, you know that, he said. I learned from the best. Emily smiled, looking at Betty. The letter was delivered to Jennifer, who cried for hours after reading it. But these were different tears now, tears of hope. The day of the surgery arrived. The hospital was buzzing. The story had become public again, and there was widespread emotion. People sent messages of support, formed prayer chains. Before entering the operating room, Betty and Jennifer had a moment alone. Promise me something? Jennifer asked. Anything. If something happens to me, keep being Emily's mother, officially. Marry Richard, be happy, build the family I couldn't hold on to. Jennifer, promise me, Bet, like I promised to take care of Emily, promise to take care of them both. I promise, Betty said, but you're going to make it through this. We'll grow old together, watching Emily grow up. arguing over who spoils her more. Jennifer laughed, her first genuine laugh in years. Two mothers fighting to spoil their daughter. Emily is going to be unbearable. Wonderfully unbearable, Betty agreed. The two women embraced, sealing a pact of love that transcended any social convention. The surgery lasted 8 hours. Richard and Emily waited together, supported by Mrs. Elizabeth and a crowd of friends and acquaintances. The hospital provided a special room for them. Emily held her father's hand, repeating their code. 3 squeezes, I love you. They'll be okay, she said. Both of them will be okay. Finally, Dr. Thompson appeared, exhausted but smiling. The surgery was a success. Both are doing well, recovering. The celebration was immediate. Emily jumped into her father's arms, crying with joy. Mrs. Elizabeth hugged the doctor, thanking him profusely. "When can I see them?" Emily asked. "Tomorrow," Dr. Thompson replied. "They need to rest today." The night was long, but the morning brought the best gift. Emily entered the recovery room, where Jennifer and Betty lay side by side. "Mom! Bet!" she exclaimed, running to hug them carefully. "Easy, sweetheart," Richard warned him. "They're sore." "It's okay," Jennifer said, her voice weak but happy. "Let her. I've waited so long for this hug." Emily hugged Jennifer first, crying, "You came back. You really came back." "I did, my princess, and this time I'll fight to stay." Then Emily hugged Betty. "You saved Mom. You're a hero." "No, my angel. I just did what love demands, like your mother did when she chose me to care for you." The weeks of recovery were challenging, but filled with precious moments. Jennifer and Betty shared the room, deepening their bond. Richard and Emily visited daily. During one visit, Jennifer made a revelation. "Richard, I need to tell you something about why I left like that." "You don't have to." "I do. That day, 2 years ago, I was going to end my life." The depression had won. "But on the way, I stopped here at the hospital. I don't know why, and I met Betty." Everyone fell silent, processing the information. "She didn't know, but she saved me that day," Jennifer continued. "Made me promise to get help before doing anything foolish. And made me promise that if anything happened to Emily, she'd take care of her. It was like she knew." "I did know," Betty confessed. "I saw it in your eyes. The same look I had when I lost Rebecca. That's why I made you promise, to give you something to fight for." "And I fought," Jennifer said. "Every day I fought. Didn't always win, but I fought. And now, seeing the 3 of you, I know it was worth it." Richard took Jennifer's hand. "You're the bravest woman I know. Fighting your own mind every day. I can't imagine." "Now, you don't have to imagine," Jennifer smiled weakly. "Now you can help me, all of you can." Recovery continued. Jennifer and Betty were discharged together on a day of celebration. The foundation organized a reception with dozens of families who had been helped by their support programs. During the party, Emily made an announcement. "I want to give a speech." She climbed onto a small makeshift stage, the microphone trembling in her hands. "A year ago I was asleep. Not a normal sleep, but a deep sleep where I couldn't wake up no matter how hard I tried. Do you know what woke me? Love. Bet's love, who kept a promise. My dad's love, who never gave up. My mom's love, who even when sick fought to get better. And all of your love cheering for us." She paused, looking at her 2 mothers. "Today, I have 2 moms. Some people think it's strange, but I think I'm just lucky. 2 incredible women who love me, who fight for me, who save each other. If that's not family, I don't know what is." The speech was met with tears and applause. Jennifer and Betty stepped onto the stage, embracing Emily. Richard joined them, forming a far from conventional family portrait, yet overflowing with love. Months passed. Jennifer continued her daily battle with depression, but now with a solid support system. Betty ran the foundation with skill, helping dozens of families. Richard learned to balance work and family in a healthier way. And Emily? Emily blossomed. At school, she gave presentations about different kinds of families. On weekends, she alternated between her 2 mothers. Sometimes Jennifer needed quieter days and Betty took over. Other times, the 3 of them went out together. It was during one of these outings, a picnic in Central Park, that Jennifer made. An observation. "You know, Bet, I think you should consider what I told you." "About Richard," Betty blushed. "Jennifer, that's not appropriate." "Why not?" Jennifer insisted. "You love each other. Anyone can see it. And it would be good for Emily to have a more structured family." "We're already a family," Betty countered. "Yes, but we could be even more," Jennifer smiled. "Besides, I need a sister-in-law to share the responsibility of putting up with Richard." Richard, who pretended not to hear the conversation while playing ball with Emily, felt his heart race. The truth was, he had developed feelings for Betty during their entire journey, but he never thought it appropriate to express them. That night, after dropping Jennifer off at home and putting Emily to bed, Richard found Betty on the porch. "About what Jennifer said today." "Richard, you don't have to." "I do," he interrupted. "Betty, you came into our lives like an angel. You saved my daughter, you saved my ex-wife, you saved me in a way. I fell in love with you. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it happened." Betty looked at him, her eyes glistening. "Richard, I have feelings for you too, but it's complicated. Jennifer gave us her blessing," Richard reminded her. "She wants this. She wants us to be happy." "And Emily?" "Emily asks me every week when I'm going to ask you out," Richard laughed. "Apparently I'm the only one who took so long to realize it." Betty laughed too, the tension easing. "So, Mr. Richard Anderson, are you asking me to be your girlfriend?" "I am, Mrs. Betty Williams. Will you date this complicated father with his wonderful daughter and an ex-wife who comes as part of the package?" "I will," Betty replied. "After all, promises are meant to be kept." The kiss that followed sealed more than a relationship. It sealed the official formation of a family that fate had built in the most unexpected way. The news was met with joy by everyone. Emily threw a celebration party. Jennifer gave an emotional speech about how true love multiplies, never divides. Even Mrs. Elizabeth, completely transformed, toasted the couple. A year later, the wedding took place in the hospital garden where it all began. Emily was the maid of honor. Jennifer was the matron of honor. The ex-wife as matron of honor. "Now that's new," she joked. The ceremony was simple but moving. In her vows, Betty said, "Years ago, a desperate woman made me a promise. Little did she know she was giving me not just a daughter to love, but an entire family. Richard, I promise to love you, support you, and keep building this beautiful, unique family we've created." Richard responded, "Betty, you taught me that love has no single shape. That family is built with faith, dedication, and the courage to embrace the unconventional. I promise to honor your love, your story, and continue this journey by your side." Emily, unable to wait any longer, stepped up to the altar. "Can I say something too? I promise to love both of you forever and help take care of everyone, including Mom Jennifer. We are the strangest and happiest family in the world." The laughter and tears blended together. It was true. They were an unconventional family. The businessman, the former cleaning lady who became his wife, the daughter who had paralysis and recovered, the ex-wife battling depression who remained an integral part of their lives. The foundation grew, becoming a national reference for supporting families with mental health and rehabilitation challenges. Betty and Jennifer worked together, combining their experiences to help others. 5 years after Emily's accident, the whole family gathered for a special celebration. Emily, now 17, had been accepted into medical school. "I want to be a neurologist," she announced, "but one who understands that healing isn't just about the body, it's about the soul, love, family." "You'll be brilliant," Jennifer said proudly. She was doing well that day, her depression under control for months. "The best doctor in the world," Betty agreed, hugging the daughter fate had given her. "No doubt she'll surpass all of us," Richard added. Mrs. Elizabeth, now a doting and completely transformed grandmother, raised a toast to family in all its beautiful and unexpected forms. Everyone toasted, celebrating not just individual victories, but the miracle of having found one another, saved each other, and built something beautiful from pain. That night, Betty found a quiet moment to visit a special place, the small memorial she had created for Rebecca in their garden. Emily found her there. Telling her about us? Emily asked gently. Always, Betty confirmed. I think she'd be happy to know her mother found love again. She'd be proud, Emily hugged Betty, of everything you've built, of all the lives you've saved, starting with mine. You saved me too, my angel, gave me purpose when I was just a broken woman. We saved each other, Emily corrected. That's the magic of our family. Everyone saves everyone. And it was true. In that unlikely family, formed by promises, faith, and unconditional love, everyone had found salvation. Jennifer found strength to fight her demons. Richard learned compassion and to look beyond appearances. Betty found a new family to love. Mrs. Elizabeth discovered what truly mattered. And Emily? Emily had the rare privilege of being unconditionally loved by two extraordinary mothers and a father who moved mountains for her. Their story spread, inspiring other families to embrace the unconventional, to fight with love, to keep promises, even when they seemed impossible. The foundation gained international recognition, but to them the greatest reward was sitting together on Sundays, Jennifer sharing her therapy progress, Betty telling stories from the foundation, Richard talking about the businesses he now balanced better, and Emily simply being the bond of love that held them together. Once, a reporter asked Betty what the secret to making miracles was. She answered simply, "There are no miracles. There's love, dedication, and the courage to never give up. There's the strength of a promise made from the heart. And there's the beauty of accepting that family is where love lives, no matter what form it takes." The reporter pressed, "But Emily's recovery, the successful transplant, the transformation of an entire family, if that's not a miracle, what is?" Betty smiled, that wise smile of someone who had learned life's deepest lessons. It's what happens when we choose to love beyond convention. When a cleaning lady dares to dream of saving a child, when a wealthy father trusts a poor woman, when a sick mother finds strength to fight, when a prejudiced grandmother learns to see with her heart. That's not a miracle, it's humanity in its purest form. Years later, Emily, now a medical school graduate completing her residency in pediatric neurology, wrote a book about her experience. The title was simple, 3 Squeezes, a story of love and promises. In the dedication, she wrote, "For Betty, who brought me back to life with whispers of love, for Jennifer, who even in the darkness of depression never stopped loving me, for Richard, who proved that real fathers are the ones who never give up, for Grandma Elizabeth, who learned that love knows no prejudice, and for all the families who dare to be different, who build love where others see impossibility. 3 squeezes will always mean I love you, and I love you all, infinitely." The book became a bestseller, but more importantly, it became a beacon of hope for thousands of families facing similar struggles. The foundation created a protocol called the Betty Method, combining traditional medicine with the healing power of love and emotional connection. Betty, now an honorary doctorate recipient from 3 universities, remained humble. "I was just a cleaning lady who made a promise. Love did the rest, but everyone knew she was so much more. She was living proof that there are no small people when love is big, that a promise made from the heart can change destinies. That family is where we choose to plant our love, no matter how the world defines it." On a sunny afternoon, the whole family gathered for the inauguration of the Foundation's new wing, the Rebecca Williams Wing, in honor of the daughter Betty had lost, but whose love continued to save lives. "She would be proud," Jennifer said, squeezing Betty's hand. "Every child we save carries a little piece of her," Betty replied. "Love doesn't die, it just transforms." Emily, now overseeing the medical side of the Foundation, watched, her 2 mothers so different yet united by their love for her and for each other. "You know," she said, "when I was in that deep sleep, there were moments of awareness, moments where I felt Dad's despair, Mom Jennifer's absence. But then you came, Bet, with your calm voice, your stories, your unshakable faith. You gave me a reason to fight, to come back. You were always strong, my angel," Betty said. "I just showed the way." "No," Emily shook her head. "You were the way, for all of us, the way back to love, to hope, to life." Richard embraced his family. His wife, his daughter, his ex-wife, who was more like a sister than anything else. Mrs. Elizabeth took photos, documenting every moment. "Who would have thought," she remarked, "the cleaning lady I once looked down on became our family's savior." Former cleaning lady, Betty teased. "Now I'm a doctor." "You were always a doctor," Jennifer corrected. "A doctor in humanity, a PhD in love, a specialist in everyday miracles." As the sun set over New York City, painting the sky gold, the Anderson-Williams family, as Emily insisted on calling them, reflected on the journey they'd taken. From a hospital hallway where a cleaning lady dared to say she knew how to save a little girl, to this, a family rebuilt, a foundation saving lives, proof that love doesn't follow conventional rules. At Rebecca's memorial, a new plaque had been added. "In memory of Rebecca Williams and all the children who left us too soon. Their love lives on in every life saved, in every family reunited, in every promise kept. Love never dies. It only finds new ways to bloom." And so the promise made years ago by a desperate mother to a grieving cleaning lady had grown into something greater, a legacy of love, hope, and the certainty that sometimes the most unlikely people are exactly the ones we need to save us. Night fell, but at the foundation the light stayed on. There was always someone in need of hope. And as long as there was love, as long as there were people willing to keep impossible promises, there would always be salvation. 3 squeezes. I love you. It was as simple as that. And it was everything. The end of the story. Now tell me what you thought of this moving journey of love and overcoming. Do you believe love can truly transcend all barriers? Leave your like, subscribe, and share your thoughts with us.